Welcome to another reading of Meher, Mehera-Meher. This is chapter 102, Old Life Disciples. Go ahead, Deb.
On 14 June 1950, Mayor Baba and the 5 women left Dehradun by train for Kalyan, outside of Bombay. An indigenous, naturally sweet fruit called lychee grows locally in Dehradun, and the women took some to eat on the train. From Kalyan, they went by public bus to Satara, arriving on the 16th. Baidul, Erich, Vishnu, and Gustaji accompanied them, and 2 days later the other men companions arrived from Delhi. Baba and the women stayed at Muthra's bungalow, where they stayed in the summer of 1947 during the time of partition. Satara had other associations as well. In 1941, as their last stop on the Blue Bus tours, they had stayed at a dak bungalow there on their way to Mehrabad. And when Baba wanted a holiday in August 1949, after the Blue Bus seclusion, they had gone again to the same dak bungalow. Muthra's bungalow was described previously by Mehra as a new, clean, and comfortable place with a hall upstairs. The last time they were there, the women had been in a bedroom on one side of the upstairs hall, and Baba in a bedroom on the other side. This time, however, the women occupied the downstairs bedrooms. The house was very large, Mehra added. We felt lost in it. Baba intended to keep himself free from all conditions until 25 July. He would then begin his work with the mus, the mad, and the poor, and start living the three phases of the new life: Langoti, begging, and gypsy, which he had taken on himself alone. The life of Langoti represented nakedness or helplessness, begging a life of poverty or hopelessness, and gypsy a life of wandering or aimlessness. It was the conditions of millions of refugees midway through the war-torn 20th century. Meher Baba was taking such suffering upon himself in order to create a spiritual path that all could follow for ages to come. The Korean War broke out at this time, and soon afterwards Baba sent for 2 of the Western women, Kitty and Rano, who arrived on 7 July and were permitted to stay for a month, while Naja went back to Bombay. Naja had said that Kitty and Rano would not be free to come, even if Baba called them, because of their teaching jobs. But surprisingly, this was not a problem. Rano explained, "We had ticklish jobs teaching, and it was in the middle of the term when we asked the headmistress for short leave. We had received a letter from Mani saying that if we could be sure we could get our jobs back, we could come and see Baba. We felt like saying goodbye to our jobs." The
There's
head.
a sidebar there.
Oh,
Have you
sorry.
got it in your book?
I do not.
Okay, I'll read it. Another reason Kitty and Rano were called is that Goher and Nilu took Mani and Meru to Miraj for medical checkups at this time. They were gone for a week. Mahara and Naja would have been alone had Kitty and Rano not come. End of sidebar.
Who did you say had to see it, have some medical care? Meru and.
Mani and Maheru.
Uh-huh. I wonder if that was from that food poisoning that Mani got, but it said that she recovered. Okay. The headmistress said, "Of course you can go. I know you wouldn't ask if it weren't important." Kitty and I just clutched our chests. The headmistress did that twice, and then the third time we left permanently to be with Baba. To me, the headmistress' easygoing acquiescence was one of the most extraordinary things that happened in the new life. When Rano and Kitty arrived in Satara, it had been almost 9 months since they had seen Baba and the four women, and Rano recounted the early period of their wait. Months went by until we got a letter from Mani saying Baba was definitely not going to call us, and we should either help Meherji's wife Homai in the household or get jobs. Homai didn't need our help, so that meant getting jobs. In the new life, Kitty was always stoical. If it is Baba's will, then we should do it, she would say. I was more depressed about being sent to Bombay. Bombay was a purge. We may never see Baba again, I thought. But Baba had once told me, hold on to me like a lifebuoy, and you will never sink. That phrase kept me going during our separation in the new life. We did have a glimmer of hope that Baba would call us, so we kept our trunks ready with the same amount of clothes that the new life women companions were taking on the trip. We used to go for long walks every day in various parts of Bombay to get our limbs in trim in case Baba called us. We weren't allowed to go to the movies, so we took long walks for an hour or so after dinner. Khorshid went with them, and sometimes when they encountered a grand wedding party, they sat, admiring the decorative lights and watching as guests arrived in expensive outfits. Baba had Ali Shah, brought from Ahmednagar on 9 July, and thereafter he began working with the must alone each day for 3 hours. Other musts too were located and brought. Baba had worked with Ali Shah previously in Satara during the time of partition, along with the great seventh plane Majub Chacha. Some conjectured that this time Baba's work with Ali Shah and the other musts had to do with the Korean War. In contrast to the continuing grimness of world events, Baba's eye condition finally cleared up when Erich brought a physician to their bungalow one day, and the man noticed that tiny crystals had formed in Baba's eyes. Oh, this bothers me. The doctor pulled back Baba's eyelids and used a pair of tweezers borrowed from Gohair to remove them.
And there's a sidebar. Do you have it in your book?
No, nothing about that. No.
Okay, I'll read it. On 12 September 1950, while Baba was in Bombay, he was taken to an eye doctor for a checkup. Baba's eyes were normal except for cataracts developing and arteriosclerosis in the veins of his eyes. End of sidebar.
Huh. Oh, I wonder
Never
if
heard of
he,
that, right?
no,
Arteriosclerosis in the veins of the eyes.
I wonder if he ever had the cataracts removed.
Hmm.
Um, I don't
I
think
don't
so.
recall that. No,
Yeah.
right.
And it was a huge ordeal back then to have them taken out.
Oh my goodness.
Baba woke early in Satara, walked with Gohair to the companion's bungalow at 7:30 or 7:45, and was back at Muthra's by 11 a.m. In the interim, the women helped Naja in the kitchen until she left for Bombay, did other household chores, and then sewed. Mehera stitched a dress for herself on a hand-operated machine that Mani had borrowed from her mother. For Mani, Mehera sewed a Punjabi dress from some plain unprinted material Mani gave her. And for the first time since 1938, Mehera made another coat for Baba. And I do
Here
have a
we
sidebar
oh
here.
ex yep.
Mani took this Punjabi outfit to the West in 1952 and wore it there. Mehera never wore such an outfit. When I remember meeting Mani, she was always wearing a Punjabi outfit. Besides this activity, the women read a few books in their spare time, since Gohair had become friendly with a Christian woman who loaned them some. They checked out books from a local city library as well. In addition, they took long walks with Baba, which resulted in them acquiring a new pet, a baby mare.
Oh,
As we were walking, we passed the, do you know how to pronounce that word?
I would guess Maidan
Maidan.
or Maidan. Yep.
Yeah, Mehera recalled, where some gypsies were camped. They were eating. They had a small baby horse that was very cute. We were admiring the pony when Baba asked whether I would like it. I said I did, and Baba said he would ask whether the person would sell it. We'll buy it, he declared. Baba sent Goher to the person, and he agreed. By the way, John said I was pronouncing Goher wrong because I've always pronounced it Gohair.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know. I'll try the other way. But
Okay.
Goher took the man and their new horse back to Muthra's. Mera, Mani, and Meru continued their walk with Baba. When they arrived home, Baba told Mera to give the baby horse some milk in a bowl. They had learned that the horse was accustomed to sleeping at night with lambs, and Mera told Baba that it would not be happy all alone in the stable. Mera felt the young mare would be lonely without her mother. Since their gardener had some goats, they asked him to bring them every evening to be tied near the horse. The horse was happy with the goats, and the women were glad that the horse was not afraid now.
Oh, by the way, that's common practice with horse owners that
Mhm.
have only one horse. They'll get a goat too to keep it company.
Yeah, yeah, they like four-legged companionship.
Yeah.
um, at first, the baby mare was shy, but soon she became accustomed to the women. Baba named her Begum, I guess,
Uh-huh.
Begum, which means lady, Mira explained, though she didn't look like one. She was a sweet horse, but she was not so pretty to look at. She was a plain country horse. But you also had said earlier that it was very cute. Okay.
A
Um,
picture is coming up, so hold your breath. A picture is coming up of Begum.
okay. Begum was so small that she could easily come indoors and had the run of the house. Later in Mahabaleshwar, she followed the women like a pet dog, entered their rooms, and would, in general, would not leave them alone. Begum especially loved Baba, who enjoyed her antics. She went to him frequently, and he patted her and fed her carrots. When he purposely ignored her, she stood quietly until he gave her his attention and then happily trotted off. All right, the sidebar says, oops, I guess I should wait a second. There, I'll wait on that. On 17 July, Baba dictated a circular to be sent to 14 women disciples who had formerly been in his ashram and to the arrangement wallas, which stated, before I read this, it said, sidebar says the 14 women were Naja, Khorshid, Sunamasi, Kitty, Rano, Katie, Mansari, Sultan, Dala, Walu, Jurbai, Dastur, and her three daughters. Kitty and Rano were in Satara at the time, so their circular copies were most likely given to them then. All those of my old life, this is what the circular stated from Baba. All those of my old life women disciples listed below are allowed by me to accept gifts in cash or kind from any relation, friend, or acquaintance, but not from Merji, Naraman, Sarosh, Papa Jesawala, or any of the arrangement wallas. Such gifts must never be asked for directly or by the dropping of subtle hints, nor should they be accepted unless offered freely and spontaneously. They must also be genuine gifts, by which it is meant that whether they be money or anything else, there should be a genuine token of friendship or blood tie that links the giver to the receiver. Thus, even if the giver comes to know that is not, though it is not necessary that he or she should, that his or her gift will be handed on to me, the gift must be calculated to be pleasing or useful to the original receiver, and not one calculated to be pleasing or useful to me. Wow. All gifts received by those of my women disciples listed below, and also any inheritance they may receive, must be sent on to me. Should the gift or inheritance be of an unmovable kind, information to this effect should be sent to me. In this case only, information about the gift or inheritance and about the possibility of a sale, etc., should be mentioned. If necessary, relatives and friends may be informed, saying only that the previous restriction of not accepting gifts has now been removed. Everything sent to me in this way will be used for my work with musts, the mad, and the poor, and for anything I like. With the exception, it will never be used for the 4 women who are with me, or for any of my companions of the new life. Everything that was decided, settled, and arranged, as well as all former instructions, stand good for good. All right. I'm going to leave it in your capable speech.
Capable lips. Mansari, who had been living in the former maternity hospital on Mehrabad Hill with Jerbai and her daughters, was one of those who received the circular. As Mansari recounted, a few days prior to the start of the new life, when everything was being packed to be sent away, Baba asked whether she would like to keep anything for herself, such as the phonograph, to help pass the time while he was gone. Mansari, who was in a foul mood with the thought that Baba would soon be leaving and she would never see him again, replied with a trace of acrimony that she had no interest in listening to records or in amusing herself once Baba left. But the thought stayed with her, and a day or two later the subject came up again. Mansari now said that if Baba really were serious about leaving something behind for her, there was one thing she wanted: his Gadi. Baba expressed surprise that she would want such an item. Mansari wished that the Gadi be kept under the tin shed where so many happy hours had been spent in his company, so that she could continue to take his darshan every day. Baba started teasing her about performing rituals, but Mansari cut him off, saying, "That's not your concern, Baba. You asked me what I wanted, and I've told you. If you want to leave something, leave the Gadi. If you don't want to leave it, then don't leave anything." And so Baba's Gadi remained at Upper Mehrabad under the tin shed, rather than in the East Room, where his other things were stored. Later, knowing how much Mansari missed Baba, Erich's sister, Meheru, sent her a copy of Kabir's couplets. Mansari looked through the book and liked the poems. During the new life, she copied all of the Hindi poems into Gujarati in a notebook and then returned the book to Meheru. To pass the time, Mansari began memorizing all 900 couplets. The sidebar says, later, after the new life, Baba tested Mansari's knowledge of the couplets by asking her to recite them in numerical order. Baba corrected her without consulting the book when she made a mistake. Before Baba left, he had assured Mansari, wherever I may go, I am here on the hill, always. Remember this well. At that time, Baba gave her 5 or 6 long staves and told her, if anyone comes in the middle of the night, break their heads. Mansari had replied, when you are here, who would dare to come? Baba simply repeated the instruction. Then one night she dreamed that Baba asked her, what would you do if a cobra comes into your room? Mansari replied, I would kill it. Yes, do not be afraid, Baba told her. Kill it. I am with you. On the hill, Mansari had been given the cage room and the room next to it, which had been the Meher Baba Journal office, for living quarters. Because she considered the cage room sacred, she slept in the room next to it. The sidebar reads, Kaikobad's family occupied the other rooms of the hospital building, as they continued to do even after Baba dropped his body. One night in August 1950, Mansari woke about midnight and felt something cold on her neck. Half awake, she brushed aside what she thought was a lizard and went back to sleep. A little later, she woke with the same feeling. She lit the lantern and found that it was a small cobra. Frightened, she forgot about the long staves Baba had given her, and in her excitement, picked up a short piece of kindling from the firewood. Thus armed, she chased the snake around the room and eventually killed it. She lay down and fell asleep. At about 2 a.m., she woke to see Baba sitting on the end of her bed. He was intently looking at her throat, but not at her face. Mansari wanted to speak to him, but found that she could not. From then, each time she woke until 5 a.m., she saw Baba at the foot of her bed. She even rubbed her eyes to make sure that she was not dreaming. But Baba's expression and position did not change. In the end, she saw his figure slowly fade away. For the next 11 nights, a strange thing happened. Each evening, Mansari could hear the hissing of another cobra as it moved about in the compound. It was, she believed, the mate of the snake that was killed, coming to seek revenge. This frightened her to such an extent that on the 12th day, she stood before Baba's picture and sincerely prayed to him. Baba, It is too much for me to bear any longer. Either the cobra should kill me, or I should confront it and beat it to death. To Mansari's surprise, from that day onward, the sounds stopped. And the sidebar says General MacArthur coincidentally described North Korea's initial attack across the 38th parallel in June 1950 as striking like a cobra.
I remember Mansari also said that when she killed the cobra, she said she made it into chutney.
Wow.
Now, not literally, but oh, there's a
Oh,
few, of course. But
oh,
she chopped it to little tiny pieces
wow.
in her enthusiasm.
Yeah. My mother was similarly terrified of snakes, and when she'd come across a harmless snake in the garden, she would chop it to pieces with the shovel too. Yeah.
Aw,
So here we have that very sweet picture of Baba with Begum.
yeah, it is sweet.
Yeah. And Baba looks as happy as he does when he was with the Musts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does. Yeah, he must be feeding her something, or else she's just kissing. Uh,
Yeah.
you can see her eyelashes.
Yeah.
But she's cute.
It's adorable. Yeah. For a country
And she,
horse. So that was in Mahabaleshwar, 13 February 1951. Picture taken by Padre.
Audrey. He wasn't on A New Life.
Right. Well, this is 1951, so it was, sometime after they received the horse.
Okay. So they got
Yeah.
the horse in 1950, summer of 1950. Okay.
Yeah. hmm Chapter 103, Mahabaleshwar Meeting. Meanwhile, in Satara, Meher Baba had been working strenuously with the Musts, and by 21 August 1950, he was ready for a holiday. He, Mera, Mani, Goher, and Meru went to Pune, where Erch's brother, Meherwan Jesawala, and Adi Sr. had rented a newly built bungalow belonging to a Mr. Sugandhi, situated on the Prabhat Road in Deccan, Gymkhana. Five of the companions arrived and stayed separately. Baba spent a quiet week in Pune. No visitors were permitted. The women did no cooking as meals were supplied from Bindra House. They went for walks or drives every day and one evening to the horse races. Baba showed us Sambhaji Park one morning at 10 or 11, Mehera recalled. We had a nice walk as no one was there. We stood in front of the bird cages. Baba walked further. Everything was done quickly, with no time to admire things. We went to see the aquarium also. On the 26th, they drove with Baba to Mastani Lake near Hadapsar. The next day, we went to someone's house far outside of Pune. It was very rocky, nothing around. Baba told us to stop the car. He walked up a small hillock where there was a must. When he came back, he was happy and surprisingly not tired. Meher had been instructed to rent Suganti's house for a month, but after a week on 28 August, Baba and the four women shifted to the Mahim area of Bombay, where Meherji and Nariman had arranged accommodations. Here, too, they stayed in a house in a secluded area with only a few fisher folk residing nearby. Naja was also in Bombay and, like Mani and Dehradun, nearly died there. Naja was staying at Naroji Dadachanji's to help cook for Baba and the others when she caught a cold. Intending to take a large quantity of vitamin C for it, instead she took several handfuls of aspirin. Her eyes turned upwards and she collapsed unconscious. The pills were analyzed, Baba was informed, and he sent Goher to immediately recognize who immediately recognized a drug overdose and gave the appropriate treatment. By Baba's grace, Naja was saved. And the sidebar says, it was discovered later that the Dada Chanji's servant had dropped and broken the bottle of aspirin, hurriedly put the pills in an empty bottle, which happened to be one for vitamin C, and replaced it in the medicine cabinet. My goodness. Early in the mornings, the four women went for walks with Baba, who always liked to walk in a quiet place. At first, they drove to some reclaimed land to walk on the sidewalks, but they could not walk quickly for all the dog waste. At night, people from the nearby apartments walked their dogs here, and Baba said that they should not go back there. He sent the companions to ask Arnavaz for an alternative spot, and she suggested Versova. They drove there, taking a leisurely route to a faraway area where there were large bungalows facing the sea. They had a brisk walk on the beach, and Baba told them, pick up shells while I walk some more. Then he took a long, brisk walk on the sand while the four women hunted for seashells. Baba, too, picked up a few. They also visited the Hanging Gardens, Mazgaon Gardens, and the Victoria Zoo. On 6 September, it rained, and they went to the Prince of Wales Museum instead. Baba said to look in the gallery while he walked on the long veranda outside and up and down the corridors. No one was there, and Baba enjoyed his stroll. Two guards were standing outside, Mehera remembered. One wore a big belt on his uniform and had a paunch. We went inside the museum to have a look. From inside, we watched as the two guards sat mesmerized watching Baba. Their heads went back and forth as if they were watching a tennis match. Sometimes also they went to Bandra, another suburb of Bombay, and walked past the large estates, admiring the bungalows, gardens, and coconut trees. Mara remembered seeing Bandra as a child. It was so nice then. When I returned with Baba, it was so crowded I couldn't believe it. To get away from the crowds, Baba walked on reclamation land here too. He tucked in his sadra and wore a coat to be less conspicuous. When they walked past some school children playing, Mara thought, how fortunate these children are that Baba sees them while passing. As a child, Mara had seen European girls in Bandra at Michaelmas, dressed all in white and looking like little angels with flowers in their hair. They held candles and paraded around the block with Mary's statue. I remember going in the evening to see it and tossing flowers on the parade. On 8 September, Baba and the women went to the Mount Mary Church in Bandra, built on a hill in honor of a statue of Mary that a local fisherman had found in the sea. When they saw many children also going to the church, wearing party dresses and holding flowers, Baba said to find out what was going on. They asked the children, who replied, today is the birthday of Our Lady. It is Mary Mass, Mary's birthday. Baba brought them back in the afternoon when it was less crowded. He instructed the women to buy a candle and go inside. When they did so, they saw nuns placing lilies near the statue. Mara recalled there was a beautiful, peaceful atmosphere inside the church. Mara felt a bit self conscious that they had not brought flowers also, but she put the candle by the altar anyway. Others also brought candles, but hers was the first and largest one. Baba stood by the open door, watching from outside. Want to take another turn, Deb?
Sure. um,
Top
let's see.
of.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Let me put my glasses back on here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. On 14 September, Baba and the four women returned to Satara. The next day in South Korea, General MacArthur launched an intricate amphibious attack, which led to the retaking of Seoul. On,
So let me just interject, Deb, that there's in the online version, there's a sentence in front of that one that says, Baba then went to a cricket match at the Oval Maidan. The women accompanied him, but waited and watched from the car.
right, yeah, that's not in the print version. On 1st October, Baba and the group, including Naja, to help with the cooking, moved to Mahabaleshwar. The women spent the next 7 months at Agha Khan's bungalow, Florence Hall, where they had stayed once before. Even though Florence Hall had many rooms and was termed a palace, Mehra has described it as homey, not plush, with used but comfortable furniture inside and a large veranda. Since it was set in a wooded area, the rooms had bars on the windows, barricaded not against robbers, but to keep out wild animals. Last time, the women had seen a tiger drink from a fountain in the compound, and the night watchman had seen a huge bear do the same thing. Before going to Satara in May 1947, Baba also established a must ashram here. The dog Cracker had been with them then, and now they had a pet again, since Baba had instructed Baidu to walk their pony Begum from Satara, 28 miles at a slow, unhurried pace. Baba told Mehera to give Begum milk in a small pail every morning and evening. Begum would be grazing on the edge of the forest on the compound far away. Begum, Begum, I called out when the time for her milk came. She answered from there, neighing loudly, and came galloping. She saw me on the front side of the house and climbed up the front steps. I was afraid, as horses can easily hurt their legs. Begum didn't care. She came on the veranda to drink her milk. Once
And
Begum,
pardon me, um, in the online version, it says it took Baidu 3 days to walk with the pony Begum from Satara, 28 miles.
yeah, well, once Begum was on the veranda, she often entered the drawing room where Baba fed her carrots. Mehera noticed that Begum never did learn to kiss Baba. Only Sheba, a later pet horse, did that. But Begum did give the men a surprise one evening during a special meeting when a Qawwali program was being held. Pradri, as usual, had brought his camera. Hmm. So Padri, oh, I guess Padri was an arrangement walla, so he was allowed to be there. I don't know. The old life Mandali didn't know about Begum, said Mehera. We got the idea to give them a surprise. We were in the dining room behind a curtain. I told Goher to give Baba a few carrots so Begum would come to eat. Baba smiled. We pulled the curtain aside and Begum put her head in the drawing room. She went up to Baba and ate the carrots. The Mandali enjoyed it. They were surprised and were laughing happily. Padri got up and took a picture of it. Okay, so that's that picture that we looked at. Okay. Um, when we went for walks, we left Begum free. She followed us like a pet dog. She stuck her head between us and Baba when we walked through the thick forest of Mahabaleshwar, as she was afraid there might be wild animals lurking. There wasn't much grass in Mahabaleshwar. It was too shady and too many dry leaves covered the ground. Only on the edge of the road were there a few wisps of grass. Begum grazed while we were walking and then waited for us. If we went ahead, she would see us come galloping past us and then stop and eat again. She was very sweet. One day, Don, who loved the outdoors, went trekking through the thick forest and found an owl's nest. Inside was a baby owl, and he brought it back to show Baba. It was cute, and the women did not want to let it go, but Don did not think keeping it was a good idea. Once you start feeding it, he explained to Baba, it will land on your hand. Owls are too big and their grip is strong. You have to wear leather gloves. It isn't practical. It was such a beautiful owl, Mehera said, all fluffy and curly feathers, with large, sweet eyes, so tame and helpless. We kept it for a little while, and Baba too petted it. Don had to go back in the forest and put it back in its nest. Baba announced that he would step out of the new life for a few hours and hold a meeting with his lovers in Mahabaleshwar on 16 October, the 1 year anniversary of the start of the new life. But before the meeting, Baba allowed each lover to write him a letter to be read by him on that day. Khorshid seized the opportunity and wrote Baba a long letter saying she was tired of life in Bombay and did not want to stay with Meherji any longer. Meherji was one of the 5 arrangement wallers and devoted to Baba, but his wife Homai was not a Baba lover. She even abused Baba daily, as well as those of his women Mandali staying at her house, making it clear that she did not want Kitty, Rano, Khorshid, and Sunamasi living with them. She served us a poor quality of food and taught her children to call us beggars, Khorshid recalled, still rankled by the memory. Kitty and Ronald had teaching jobs outside, but Korsha had to stay home and teach these children Gujarati for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. Before Khurshid left Meherabad, Baba had told Baba had told her, even if heaven and earth fall, don't leave that house. Even if your throat is being cut, swallow everything and don't leave. But it became too much. One day Khurshid was so depressed that she decided to commit suicide by jumping out of a window. She even started towards the window, but then she saw Baba's face appear in front of her and changed her mind. Baba wrote back, I know what you feel and how much you love me. I know everything, but now is the time to help me. I have much work to do for the world. These days have to be passed through. Years later, when Meru was reminiscing about the new life, describing the many hardships she and the other three women had had to face, Khurshid burst out, no matter what you went through, our life was much more difficult than yours. Baba was with you. Here we were without Baba, having to stay where we didn't want to. On the evening of
Oh,
Hmm?
can I just interject? There was a little bit more in the online version. I'll read it.
Mhm.
Baba wrote back on 16 October 1950. I read your letter and I not only understand, but I know all. Everything that you have written in your letter, I know fully well. I know of your love for me, and I want you to go on proving your love by carrying out my instructions that I had given you before starting on the new life. All that you had promised me when you kissed my hand in Meherabad, you must carry out with your heart to the end. Also, my reasons for calling Naja or Rano and Kitty are my reasons of work. It does not mean that I love them more and love you less. In my new life, all my disciples are equal to me. I love them all equally. Okay, continue with years later.
Um, oh yeah, years later, when Meru was reminiscing about the new life, describing the many hardships she and the other women had had to face, Khurshid burst out, no matter what you went through, our life was much more difficult than yours. Baba was with you. Here we were without Baba, having to stay where we didn't want to. On the evening of 15 October, nearly 200 Baba lovers arrived at Mahabaleshwar. The next day at 7 a.m., all gathered in the stable at Florence Hall, once a must ashram and now a meeting place. Don has described it as an old square stable built around a courtyard with a corrugated iron roof on high stone walls smeared with a reddish brown color wash. Access through the stable lay through a pair of great weather stained teak doors that creaked and groaned as they moved on their hinges. At the meeting, Baba reaffirmed his commitment to live the new life and asked each companion and lover to do the same. Kitty and Rana were the only women present. They too returned to Bombay a few days later.
There's a picture here in the online version of from Mandla, 29 December 1938. So that's a few couple years previous. Oh,
Hmm.
more than that. 12 years previous.
Yeah, it's a better photo than one in the book, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, the one in the book is doesn't have enough contrast in it.
uh-huh.
Wow, look at that photo. Whew.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Baba looks pixie-ish.
look at the lines of Mara's face. They're beautiful.
Mm,
And Khorshid. in the corner there.
And that's back in 1937 in Happy Valley.
Uh-huh. Mm.
You want me to take a turn now with chapter 104, Old Haunts? On 21 October 1950, Meher Baba left Mahabaleshwar with four companions, Baidul, Erich, Pendu, and Gustaji. The four women plus Naja remained, along with Nilu, Vishnu, Dawn, Kakabaria, and two others. Baba was going on a whirlwind bus and train tour of India to contact musts and the poor. He would not return for 45 days. Although Baba was intensely involved in his work, the women remembered this period as a time when the very serious atmosphere of the early days of the new life had eased a bit. When they had first left Meherazad a year earlier, Meru recalled that it had been a solemn and tense period. You felt the importance of it in Baba's expression, something very important. This feeling lasted during the journeying, throughout the walking phase. Once the new life began, Baba was more relaxed, but we were very careful. We not only had to obey Baba, but to have control over ourselves, not to do anything wrong, to disturb Baba's mood. It was only later on, when we came back to Satara and Mahabaleshwar, old haunts, as it were, that the atmosphere relaxed. It was less tense then. When we started out on the new life, we had no idea or hope of ever returning to Merzad. But when we went to Satara and then Mahabaleshwar, places where we had already gone before and stayed, it felt like coming home. Mani agreed. This intensity that we felt at Upper Mehrabad, we also experienced in the new life. Along with that, there was this feeling of freedom, not a miniature or imitation freedom where you are in the mood for renunciation or putting on a long robe and declaring that you've renounced everything. Not that. It was like a breeze coming from an ocean of freedom. Along with that intensity, that focus absolutely on Baba, not to make a false step at any time, which was a condition of the new life. Anything Baba plans or starts, lays the foundation for, or plants the seeds of, is going to happen 1,000 times in the future. If that freedom is really to blossom, to be for the entire world, I cannot imagine what that time must be, as that freedom is bigger than life. Maybe that's going to happen. But it won't be just a breeze that we feel a whiff of. It will be a wind that will spread all over. Then nothing matters. It's not that one needn't desire, one wouldn't desire, as there is no room for other desires. It is so complete, so whole, so total. That's the only answer. That's why Baba said the new life will live, even if there is no one to live it. That freedom is so total. Before Baba left Mahabaleshwar, Don mentioned a mountain view far away called Milkmaid Gaolani Point. Mani, who was present, had heard of it, but neither she nor the others had ever been there. Since the women enjoyed hiking, she told Baba they would like to see it. Dawn thought otherwise. The women won't be able to go there, he opined. It's too far. Mani reported the conversation to Mera, who took it as a sort of challenge. Why can't we go there? Mera asked. When Baba goes for must work, we will pack our lunches and walk to the point. It was something exciting, someplace new they had not been before. On the day of the expedition, Naja stayed back to oversee the cooking. Besides, it would be too much of a walk for her ankle, which bothered her when strained. But the other four women made sandwiches and hiked for what seemed like miles through the thick forest. When they came to a mountain with caves, they were a bit scared. What if a bear comes? One of them pondered. On they trudged through the dense forest, taking Baba's name. Then they saw a noise and saw a man cutting wood with an axe. This was worse than a bear, Mara said. Here we were all alone, and this man with an axe sees four women. Anyway, we went on and nothing happened. Finally, Mara announced, I'm not going any further. I'm going to sit down and eat my lunch. You all do what you like. I'm tired now. After I eat, I'll be able to walk some more. Saying which, Mara sat on a rock to eat, and the others joined her. After lunch, they continued their quest and approached a small village with only a few people. At last, the forest cleared and they came to the point. The view was lovely, a blue sky above and the dark blue valley below. They stayed a while and had leftovers from lunch, but they could not stay long as they had to be home before dark. They returned triumphant, happy and proud that they had made it to Milkmaid Point and back. Another somewhat alarming episode happened during their stay at Florence Hall, as Mara narrated. Once a villager from the valley brought a wild baby hare to our bungalow, asking if we wanted to buy it. We got very excited and asked her to show it to us. It was beautiful. It had brown fur and one white mark on its forehead, almost like a tilak, a religious marking. It looked so tiny and sweet that we bought it. They gave it a name now forgotten. But Mara did remember that when we went to brush our teeth at night, it came in the bathroom, watched us, cleaned its ears, and scratched.
That's pretty cute.
He's doing his toilet also, Mani quipped. Wherever we went, it came hopping behind us. It didn't like to stay alone in the room. To protect the rabbit from any wild animals that might be lurking about, the women usually kept it inside the house. One sunny day, however, Mara put the baby rabbit on a cushion on the veranda. She wanted it to sunbathe so that it would be healthy. From the large window, I was able to watch it, she continued. The porch was open, very big and broad. The rabbit couldn't be placed in the open, as wild foxes might come. I was stitching keeping an eye on the rabbit from the window. Suddenly I looked up and saw a big crow come sweeping down very fast. It took the hare by its two ears and flew off, carrying our baby away in front of me. How horrible. Beyond their garden lay a thick forest, and Mara wondered how they would find the rabbit in there. But she kept an eye on the crow and noted where it landed. Then she yelled, "Money!" They rushed outside through the forest and found the baby rabbit on a pile of dry leaves. The crow had not been strong enough to carry the rabbit very far, and Mara's shout must have frightened it. It had dropped the rabbit and flown off. The rabbit was moving, apparently unhurt. They picked it up, cuddled it, and brought it home, where they gave it warm milk and other things to eat. Baba was there at the time, and he also petted it and said to feed it more. Baba liked to overfeed it to make it happy, said Mara. We were so happy to get it back and took care not to give it any more sunbathing. And the rabbit was happy to play in the house. After some days, the rabbit died a natural death. It did not live long. Would you like to continue a little bit, Deb?
I don't think I can. My eyes are pretty tired.
Okay, great. We'll stop here then, in the middle of page 537,
Yeah.
and pick it up again next week. Let me turn off the recording.
Okay, so the pages